Hey, welcome everyone. My name is Jim Carl. I'm the Senior Director of Film Programming at the Carolina Theater, and welcome to Nevermore Film Festival, a live conversation with cast and crew from A Ghost Waits. But before we bring them on stage, let me introduce our co-moderator tonight. His name is Chuck Wheeler. Chuck serves on the programming and the jury for Nevermore and is also the chair of the social media committee. So Chuck, hey, come on in.
Hi everyone. Welcome to Nevermore.
Now bringing everybody back onto the stage, let's welcome first the director, Adam Stovall.
Hello.
Hey, Adam.
Hi, Adam.
How you guys doing?
Where are you joining us from tonight?
Sunnyside, Queens, New York.
Wow. Let's bring in lead actor, McLeod Andrews.
Hello.
Hey, McLeod.
Hi,
Where are you joining
McLeod.
us from tonight?
Los Angeles.
Let's bring in supporting actress Sydney Vollmer.
Hello.
Joining us from where tonight, Sydney?
Cincinnati, Ohio. So where it was filmed.
Really?
In part.
And last, let's bring in Michael C. Potter, who I believe is the director of photography.
Hello.
Michael.
Hey, Michael. Where are you joining us from?
I am also from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Wow. So guys, welcome so much. Thank you for everything you've done. We loved A Ghost Waits, and I know that the fans have loved it as well. So let's get started. When was the last time all of you got together like this?
Like this? Probably a few weeks ago for a, not even a few weeks ago, probably like a month ago for the cast and crew commentary.
How is that going, by the way?
The commentaries?
Yeah.
We eventually got it figured out. McLeod and I think it took like 3 tries for us to get our commentary to actually work. But you know, that's kind of how we roll. Is we dive in and have all the mistakes and stuff, and then we bring in everybody else once it looks like we know what we're doing.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about A Ghost Waits. I mean, I know that you guys get asked this question 1,000 times. And tell us a little bit about the process. How did you start writing the script? It was it 5 years ago that you started working on this?
Yeah, about 5 years ago, fall 2015. McLeod and I had spent a year trying to make another movie, and when that didn't come together, it was pretty dispiriting. And I'd gone back to Northern Kentucky, which is where I'm from. And while I was there, some friends had me play a video game called PT. That's a first-person haunted house puzzle game. And while I was playing that, I had them laughing because it was how I react to a haunted house, which is something really creepy happens. And I'm just like, nope, I don't need to worry about this at all. And then around that time, I saw a webcomic called Saturday Morning Breakfast Cereal. Guy asks a girl, what do you think is the most American movie? And she says Ghostbusters, because here's a movie where you have demonstrable proof of an afterlife. And the whole thing is about navigating government bureaucracy and growing a small business. And I thought that's really funny, but also like, yeah, a ghost do mean there's an afterlife. I would have so many questions. And that kind of formed the spine of what became A Ghost Waits.
McLeod, how did you get involved? Did you know Adam before you started working on A Ghost Waits?
Yeah. We had been trying to get some other movies off the ground long before A Ghost Waits. And, Adam, we had trouble, getting enough funding to make those happen. And Adam, chanced upon an opportunity to get some seed capital. And shortly after that, wrote A Ghost Waits really quickly. And with me always in mind for Jack. And I was just basically like, when you need me, and I'll show up.
So, guys, your film has been compared to a long line of romantic horror films. Of course, the one that always comes to mind immediately is Ghost, with Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze. And the other film that in just about every review I read over the past few days is The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, the original being the one with Gene Tierney and Rex Harrison. Though I'm really fond of the television version. I think it was Hope Lang and Edward Mulhare. But other films have been cited, Portrait of Jenny, Emily Young's Kiss of Life. How did those films influence the genesis of your film?
I had seen strikingly few of them before we made it. Ghost I saw when I was a kid, when it was in theaters, and those little shadow demons scared the living shit out of me and scarred me for the rest of my life. I was like, I think I got to be a good person because those things are terrifying. All the rest of like Beetlejuice comes up a lot, and Beetlejuice is one of my favorite movies. I always say my brain is a hard drive of every movie I've ever seen and song I've ever heard, and they all just kind of play on shuffle. So I wasn't consciously thinking about any other movies in the making of this. Ghost and Mrs. Moore I hadn't seen, but when I was in high school, I had done a monologue from it in an acting class, and that was the extent of my awareness of it at the time. It's interesting. Like, I just grew up with movies, so they're kind of in the firmament of everything. But in writing it, like McLeod said, I wrote this movie by the seat of my pants. So it's the first time ever I had money before a script, and it was just like, well, I can't screw this up. So every day was just, let's just figure out what's interesting about ghosts today. And what's been really great is people are very willing to tell me what this movie reminds them of. And so I've actually gotten to read a lot of really cool books and see a lot of really cool movies since then that I was like, oh yeah, that would have been good to know about before. That could have sent us down an interesting path. But yeah, very, very few, which I feel like is probably a disappointing answer.
No, it's not a disappointing answer.
Okay, good.
And you take with the Beetlejuice, which, Tim Burton's, everything is so bizarre. But then your version of The Office is everybody's office. It's, it's a mundane day-to-day activity. And I thought that was a great take.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
I've worked in a lot of offices, and it's never as interesting as Beetlejuice. So
no. I think when I think it's Amanda Miller you cast as Miss Henry. She does the job very well. So you chose that mainly because that's the way you remember having worked in the day-to-day world.
Yeah, we also didn't have any money, so I couldn't dress it up like a bizarre, phantasmagorical office, wonderland of an office. Amanda, you mentioned Amanda. Like, I'd seen her in a bunch of regional short films, and she was, kind of always the best thing in them. And I just thought, like, I really want to work with that person. And her approach, and I wrote Ms. Henry for her. Like, her approach is so direct. That it was just like, yeah, this is a boss I recognize, where they're just like, I don't care about you. I just need you to do your job. What are the words I can say that will make you do that?
So where did you get so we go from Ghost to Spectral Agent. And of course you couldn't call the film Spectral Agent Awaits, right. Rather. But anyway, where was the origin of that?
I love this question because I feel like a lot of people think it's a very woke thing, or when it's not. It's actually more about corporate speak and how we dehumanize workers by calling them something else besides what comes naturally or what they kind of readily identify as. So a spectral agent is just it's part of the ghost bureaucracy. And once we had shot, McLeod and I were talking one day, and I was just like, "Oh crap! Should we have made that clear? Are people going to think we're going out of our way to be like ghost Americans or something?"
It did cross my mind.
Yeah.
But speaking of jobs, McLeod, your job in the film is not what one would associate, with the hero of a film. So, and I think, didn't I read somewhere in your bio that you used to do handyman work?
Yeah, I mean, I've had lots of odd jobs over the years. For a long stretch, I did landscaping. I did some demolition at one point of an old mall. I never did anything specifically handyman oriented like Jack, but yeah, certainly had done my fair share of menial labor. Making movies being among them.
So menial.
Someone in the chat is asking, assuming this was filmed in Cincinnati, are there any advantages or disadvantages in filming there?
I'll answer very briefly, but I think Mike Potter would actually be great for this because he shot a lot in Cincinnati. My experience of I grew up near Cincinnati, and my experience is that it's an amazing place. Has this robust arts community that a lot of people don't know about. It's like this European city in the middle of America. And when we were making the film, people were really excited because, you know, stuff comes in to shoot, but they're flying everybody in, they're maybe staying at a hotel, but this was a native making something that was set in Cincinnati that wasn't apologizing for it or making fun of it, using people for the most part locally. Cloud flew in from LA and Natalie flew in from New York. And I lived in Cincinnati at the time, but that was my experience. Mike, what do you, like, as somebody who works there often, what do you think?
Yeah. So to go off your point, there is a very communal kind of feeling in the city of Cincinnati where people really rally behind the arts and people trying to do artistic endeavors. And it's really heartening to see, even though we've started to get more and more of these big budget films coming in, at least pre-COVID, but people were still always like, oh yeah, I got a place, you can come shoot there, whatever, no big deal. They've obviously never had a film crew in their house or whatever and see the damage that we do. but no, you know, and the other side of that is that, you know, the film crews in Cincinnati are very respectful of people's property and time and so on and so forth. So it's a very kind of give and take. It's just really great. But as far as disadvantages, we shot it was August, right? And
yes, August 2016.
Yeah, and it was like a heat wave, and the humidity was just like, it's like if you put on all of your winter clothes and sat in the bathroom and turned on the shower to full steam for like 5 hours. It was like that the entire shoot. So the humidity was definitely a challenge. There were definitely times I was shooting handheld and the camera was like, oh, I almost dropped it because the sweat of my hands was so great. But no, it's a great place to be. It's a great place to live. The other disadvantages that we didn't get to travel anywhere cool and get some like beautiful vistas. But that's just me being selfish.
We couldn't afford vistas.
I think going off of what Michael said, another advantage is that the Cincinnati film community, even though it's relatively small, we do have one, and it's a very tight-knit community. So you have the advantage of knowing the people that you're working with. You have most likely seen them work in something else. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. If you have a good reputation, that's great. If you have a bad reputation, well, that spreads kind of quickly. But in general, it's a kind of homier feel to things. You know people's strengths and weaknesses going in.
Yeah, and being Midwestern helps too, because, you know, everybody wants to please and be friends and buddy, and then they wait until you leave to talk shit about you behind your back.
Exactly.
So Michael, Kevin asked about, and this goes for Adam, you as well. What about the decision to film in black and white?
Adam, you start that one.
I mean, you make so much money in black and white.
It's the clear, obvious choice.
Yeah. You know, before we, I remember I was on a location scout with Chenny Chen, who was our UPM, and I told her, like, I think I want to make it in black and white, and she said, no, absolutely not, because we got a lot of no's from distributors and festivals purely because of black and white. It's a really hard sell these days. But I love the black and white aesthetic. And something about the story just always kind of felt like it would be right. But we shot it in color. Mike shot it in color. And really striking images. Like sometimes it was really sad to lose that. I mean, it still conveys in black and white because Mike's very good at his job. But it was shot in color. It was planned to release in color. I still have the mock-up of what Muriel was going to look like in color on my computer. And then when we did pickups. We did 2 sets of pickups, and I shot those because we just didn't have any money left. We couldn't bring Mike back. We couldn't bring anybody back. Sydney filled in on a few days because she had nothing else to do, I guess. And thank you so much for that. But she was indispensable. But when I cut it all together and was color correcting, the visual cohesion wasn't there. It just didn't quite match as much as I would want it to. So, and I was just driving myself crazy. And then one day McLeod said, have you thought about making it in black and white? And I was like, I have. Yes. And we dropped an LUT on it, which is a color correction algorithm. And it's not what we ended up using. We actually got a really great deal from a colorist. But the moment we saw it in black and white, especially the moment we saw Muriel in black and white, it just made sense. It was just like, oh yeah, no, this is the movie. And to the extent that, like, even though we did get so many no's because of it, it was still just like, that's fine. Like, it's a worse movie if we change this. Not a worse movie, but it's not the like 100% right.
It's lesser.
thing.
Yeah. So there was an interview that I had done about the movie, and this question came up. And like Adam said, we did shoot it in color. I chose some crazy colors to use for certain, and I assigned colors to different ghosts and whatever. But in the end, with the film being black and white, it speaks to what the core and the heart of the film is, in my opinion, that Jack is essentially a living, walking ghost, and you have a ghost on the other side of the veil who has all this life but is unable to break through. So it seems fitting to me that the color and the life, if you will, is pulled out of the film and allows the relationship and the characters to bring that life and color back into it without being so literal as to shooting it in color.
It's interesting in the film. I noted that several times in the script, you talk about color.
Why is the living room purple?
The living room
Red
is
truck.
purple, and that's when Sydney makes her first appearance. The red truck that Jack refers to. And when Muriel and Rosie are talking, you refer to your favorite color, green. And I think she refers to pink as well. But what's interesting to me, and this had to be intentional, is that when you're at the table with Muriel and you're talking about Johnny Cash, and Johnny Cash was the man in black. Mm-hmm. And then later in the film, when Muriel sings, and I think, Adam, you wrote this song, it's I Tied a White Ribbon. So
with Margaret Darling, yes.
Yeah, so we're back to black and white. Just an observation. Yeah.
You make it sound like we knew what we were doing, Chuck.
Did you know what you were doing?
Well, and it's funny, too, because, again, with the purple living room and Sydney's character, I did actually use gels on the lights to create purple for her. That was when we were like, this thing could go either way. But, again, ultimately, black and white was the right choice.
We spent a long time setting that up, too.
Yes, we did.
Sorry.
It's okay, buddy.
We forgive you.
It's very important. If like anybody's watching this and they're an aspiring filmmaker, they want to make their first movie, like this has been a huge lesson. You won't always know what you're doing, but like if you are just always honest and genuine when you're making it, you have to answer a lot of questions every day, and you will almost never really know the answer. But if you're able to kind of, I always say I have a prism in my chest. The light hits the prism, I know what color I'm looking for. So like, you won't always know what you're doing, but if you are staying true to yourself and your vision, it will eventually make sense, and people will talk about it and make you sound smart.
Yeah, and take a swing, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there are times where you can play it safe, or you can say, you know what? The hell with it. Let's give this a shot. Maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But maybe it's the thing that takes the thing over the top. Who knows?
Yeah.
So Sydney, talk about your character. You are initially we think you're the villain. Yeah. You come into the story when Muriel is not doing her job, so to speak. We find out later, I think, that Miss Henry is far more a villain than Rosie is. But as an actress or as an actor, is it better to be the villain or the hero?
Ooh, I think it's definitely more interesting to be the villain, but I prefer characters like Rosie, where it's kind of in the middle. You know, you might be a villain to one person, but in the end, she was just a scared and lost teenager who was putting on a front and really trying to be the best at something when she had no perspective on it. And I think that that's a really cool kind of character to play because that has layers. So I don't think it matters whether you're the hero or the villain, as long as you know you could tell that story from either side.
Yeah, my favorite moment with Rosie is when Jack and Muriel team up on her, and you go through such a gamut of emotions during that scene. You go from anger to hurt,
Yeah.
to vulnerability, and they're just attacking you and attacking you. How did you film that scene?
Oh, we pretty much shot it, point blank. We, just the two angles, really, I think. And we went through it both times. And I think the biggest thing that was running through my head during that time was, am I doing this justice? Am I doing okay? And I would look at Adam and I was like, am I doing this okay? He was like, yeah, like, do your thing. And I was like, but it ended up being really good. And honestly, it was so intimidating at times to work with Natalie and McLeod because they're such powerhouses and just really wonderful to learn from. But in that moment, I was on equal footing with them in the scene. So it was hard to do that justice.
No, it's one of my favorite scenes from the movie.
Thank you.
Really is. Yeah.
Well, if I can jump in real quick and not to talk for you, Sydney, or Adam or McLeod, but when we were shooting that, I kind of remember that we didn't do a ton of takes, I think, because you were so honest in the performance and it was so genuine that I was like, even if this shot gets a little out of focus or a little out of frame or whatever here and there, I think we were all kind of on the same page that if we did it 5, 6, 7, 8 times, by the 8th time, that honesty and that brutal emotion gamut that you're talking about, that you went through, Sydney, it would have started to kind of feel disingenuous. And it was more important that we get the real raw performance than it was to get the perfect shot or take or angle or whatever. Because that's I think we all understood that that's what the movie was, and it wasn't, this like beautiful cinematic masterpiece from a cinematography standpoint. It's about the people and performances and the characters, and you have to take a back seat. I had to take a back seat from getting the perfect shot and making it exactly how I wanted it, and it was well worth it.
And McLeod, John McHugh just asked about the scene where you make a decision to stay in the house.
Are we gonna do spoilers? Do we do the spirit fingers? Let everybody know there's spoilers.
Spoilers.
Sorry, I came in at the last minute.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Sorry, guys.
No, that's all
right. So that scene, yeah.
What was going through my head, or how did I approach it? That was a scene where Adam, from the get-go knew he wanted to give me kind of space for the entire day to sort of prepare myself and focus, because I was also a producer on the movie, and most days you could just as likely find me helping hold a light or a gel over a light and getting the crew coffee as acting on screen. But for this one, Adam was like, I want you to not do any of that today. I need you to take time, do whatever you need to do for yourself to focus and get yourself in a headspace. Most of the day I spent pacing around a room listening to John Fulbright's song Jericho, I think. I just love that song, and I think it's kind of it's a really bittersweet song, you know, about, you know, release and letting yourself, I think, be free, but also, yeah, it's a powerful song. I think it's a great song. Listen to it. Anyway, so that was just kind of getting me in the headspace. And then from there, you know, shooting it, I just did everything I could to focus on Natalie. Because after all, Muriel is the kind of new focus of Jack's life, and the thing that I think he's finally, it's ironic, he's finally found something to run towards, to something that he feels is worth making an active choice in his life to pursue, and it's her. So in that, to shoot that scene, I just tried not to even blink, just to soak in Natalie and throw all my energy into, you know, Jack's desire to be with her and to make himself vulnerable. And like, I think one of the most vulnerable things a person can do is say, I like you. Well, do you like me too? And like, and just, you know, bare his chest and say, all right, you can plunge the dagger in, or you can give me a hug. And she sort of plunges the dagger in that moment. And that's rough. So you just sort of, you know, I just tried to focus all my energy into the possibility of getting to be with this person. And so that when she says, well, when she responds, in my non-spoiler answer, when she responds, it has a, you know, as large an impact as possible. Sorry if that's meandering, but hopefully I answered your question.
No, I like meandering. But you know what my favorite scene with you is in the film, and it's probably everybody's, is your interaction with the toilet.
Right.
Yep. And I mean, was it scripted, or is that ad-libbed?
It was ad-lib. Yeah, it was a scene. It was a sort of critical expository scene that just gave us some information that we had learned over multiple screenings that we needed, like why is Jack staying there, not somewhere else? Why is he sleeping on the floor, not in the beds or whatever? Just to kind of dispense with some nagging questions that were dogging people who had watched earlier scenes. But yeah, we kind of saw an opportunity to add some character layers on top of the exposition after the fact, and kind of in a humorous way, you know, color in some of Jack's loneliness. And the toilet was my best friend in that moment. So,
but as funny as it is, it's a very sad moment.
Yeah,
especially the interaction on the cell phone.
Yeah,
when you're asking about the spare bedroom.
Right.
Robert Woods had a question, Jim. Did you get that?
Yeah, Robert wanted to know what was the most personal prop on the set.
Oh boy.
My sleeping bag.
So
yeah.
So when you make, like, sorry, a little bit of a prologue. Because we didn't have a lot of money, I was kind of using whatever I had access to, and especially like your first album, your first film, they tend to be intensely personal. So the most personal prop is actually Jack's tool belt and hammer. The tool belt is my dad's tool belt from when he graduated college and moved up to Cincinnati to go to law school and worked as a superintendent of an apartment complex. And the hammer was my papa's hammer that he used when he worked on the railroad. It's in remarkable shape for how old it is. And it, you know, you never know when you're making something this small if anybody will ever see it. So like, if anyone's going to give a damn about it, it better be you. And it was really fun to kind of find places. And like the painting that Jack corrects is my friend Olivia Hines, and the book that is in the montage is like, all this stuff was like friends stuff that I could kind of feature and like, hey, can I kind of throw a light on this? But in terms of like most personal is definitely the hammer and the tool belt. It always kind of fills my heart when I see it. And then
So-
he like throws it in the air, like, okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what was going through your what did your heart do when I dropped Papaw's hammer on
Buddy,
the kitchen counter?
By the time you did that, I was so tired. My heart was shorting. Like, yep, all right, well, at least it didn't break.
Papaw's hammer is strong.
Yeah. Still use it. It's crazy.
That should have been the working title of the film while we were filming it.
Papaw's hammer.
Yeah.
It's the sequel.
Next one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Chuck got to ask and got to mention his favorite scene in the film. So I wanted to mention mine, and it's a reaction shot. And again, spoilers, it's our sequence at the end of the film. And it's a simple reaction shot of McLeod. And I believe it's shot from Natalie's point of view, looking at McLeod. He turns to the camera and he does like a little mimic that says do do do. I think it's what songs that you were singing. And that reaction shot, I held it together. I had held it together the whole time. And then when that reaction shot hit, that was the moment that it was all over for me. Yeah, it was emotional tear gas right there.
The two things that really like I thought like I think I got a movie when I conceived them was the moment where McLeod's character says a thing to Natalie's character, and then spoilers, just spoilers. I'm not going to try to talk around this. Jack tells Muriel that he loves her and he needs to hear it back, and Muriel says, "I'm sorry," and like disappears. And I remember when I thought like, oh man, if you tell someone you love them and they just like fade out in front of you, like that's a moment. That's a cinematic moment that like I could devastate some people. I could ruin some days. And then the ending, the car sequence. I was out with my then girlfriend and we were having some drinks and we had seen the Bengtson show 100 Days. They workshopped it at the No Theater in Cincinnati. And we were just talking and suddenly in my head, years go by, I started playing and I saw a garage and kind of, the first semblance of that scene and was just like, oh boy, I know how this movie ends. And holy crap. Like that's a movie. Yep. That's a movie.
And that would be my favorite Adam Stovall scene, correct? Because that's you in the garage, correct?
At the very end?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Spoiler. Okay. All right.
And
Yes.
the coffee cup dropping and landing
Love it.
perfectly. I've never seen that in my life. Never. And we got that, I think, on like the first take, and it was like, okay, well, that's it. Nope.
Second.
Oh, was it the second?
I had to go through literally all the footage of the shoot for for the outtakes on the Blu-ray. So yeah.
It was the second. Just call it the first. Nobody will know. Shh. It's a better story that way.
So Adam,
Yes.
at the very end of the film, you want to talk about dedicated to those who make us feel less alone?
Sure. So I was in like a real bad place when I wrote this, to be completely honest. I felt like an existential mistake. I felt like I didn't have a place in the world. And McLeod and I met on the set of another movie. He was acting in it. I was a second AD. And our friendship saved my life. And so when in the course of telling the story and thinking about what it was about, because when you're writing something as quickly as I had to write this, it's just like, what am I thinking about today? Yeah, like when I got to the end and it worked, and it totally feels like a heist when you make a movie. Like, I can't believe we pulled this off. We got really lucky. But like when we got to the end, when I thought about what I wanted, and even in the beginning, what I wanted a movie to do, like at my lowest, movies have made me feel less alone. And there's a pretty strict ceiling on that because movies can't reciprocate anything. So it feels like a miracle when you meet someone who makes you feel less alone and reciprocates. And I couldn't think of any time I'd seen someone really put a light on that. So I wanted to.
Thank you.
Can we ask a funny question now?
I did not mean to put you in that position, but
No, that's fine. I mean, trust me, you don't make a movie about depression and loneliness and the desperate need for connection and then not want anybody to ask about it.
No, and as the credits are playing, and I could easily have missed that line, but it was there, it stood out, and I just felt compelled to ask.
The kind of connected, but like the reason J.J. Abrams is thanked in the special thanks is because he gave me a piece of advice years ago when I interviewed him. I asked him about Lost. I had one question about Lost. I said, it's not like before Lost premiered, we were all clamoring for an hour drama about a time traveling island. How do you do that? And he said, you have to have faith you're not alone in this world. If you want to see something, somebody else wants to see it too. And that has kind of become my North Star. Anytime I start writing about something, I always say, I don't really start writing until I don't think it works. And a big part of that is because I want to say something that I don't think is being said anywhere else. That is my job as an artist, I think. And so, yeah.
It's good. It's fine. Sydney, what happens? We know what happens to Jack and to Muriel. What do we think happens to Rosie?
I like to think that the experience at the end changes her. I'm sure that, like any teenager, she goes and she sulks for a while, and she goes and thinks this is everyone else's fault. But then, just because she's dead doesn't mean she can't grow. So I like to think that she learns from her mistakes and from Natalie and McLeod, and that she goes on to have some version of her own meaningful A Ghost Waits story.
Who created the backstory for Rosie?
Well, it's kind of funny. It was a collaboration between me and Adam during my audition, which was a virtual audition. At the end, I thought, yes, I nailed that. Then he said, so who do you think she is? Tell me about her. And I'm sorry, Adam, I kind of was winging it. And
so was I.
Perfect. But it just goes to show the amount of work that you can put in as an actor without even realizing that you're putting in that work. Because just because I was winging it doesn't mean I hadn't been thinking about it. I was obviously thinking about it in the back of my mind, and it came out in that moment. So we kind of crafted her together from that point on.
Yeah.
I know we're running low on time here, but could we very quickly, what's next for each one of you? Start with Adam.
Oh, I don't know.
This is supposed to be upbeat, Adam. Now,
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly, I don't know. The response to this movie has been so much greater than I think we really ever imagined it would be. You make a movie for less than the cost of a base level Mercedes. You don't think it's going to open up the world. So it's been a lot of fun because now we're with Arrow, and we've got a killer Blu-ray coming out on May 3rd that you can pre-order if you're in US, UK, or Canada. But when we signed, Arrow had already decided when they wanted us to come out. So I got to spend a few months just doing literally nothing but working on special features for the Blu-ray. And now, as it comes to it, that came to an end, and it feels like a very natural end. And the success of the film has led some people to get in touch with us, but nothing's definite. And I have learned not to speculate because a year ago I said, oh, we're going to do this next. And that is not true. So I don't know, but it seems like something is next, which is the most exciting thing.
Michael, what's next for you?
I don't know yet. Adam, start writing. I've got a couple of story ideas that I just don't seem to have the time or patience to put down into an actual script. I've tried, and then I get about page 7 and I go, nope, it's terrible, you're awful, and then I stop. So
page 7's a bastard.
It's a real piece of anyway. But yeah, so there's hopefully some bright spots in the future for some films. It's obviously a little tougher right now, trying to get any kind of work, but there's chatter. I can't get into too much, but there's chatter.
Good. Sydney?
Well, since shooting the film, I joined SAG-AFTRA. I signed with
Hey,
a
congrats.
really great, thank you,
Nice.
a really great Cincinnati agent called PCG Talent. You can catch me on Amazon
Can you give me a
Prime.
meeting?
Yeah, you'd love Peter. We'd love to have you. But you can catch me on Amazon Prime right now. The new Wrong Turn movie that came out. I have a small scene in that.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks.
Congrats.
And then this summer, I have a supporting role in an independent feature called The Crayon, which is like cranberry, not the coloring instrument. And then after that, hey, if you're watching this and you're a director, writer, producer, you want to contact me, I mean,
I highly recommend doing so.
And
well,
McLeod.
thank you.
McLeod, what you got?
I mean, hopefully making another movie with Adam. Right now, he's got a script that he's been working tirelessly on. At least when he hasn't had to focus on A Ghost Waits. That's sort of a time travel road disaster movie relationship drama that I think is gonna be like
One of those. One of those.
one of those.
That old
you know.
chestnut. Yeah.
That old chestnut. But I think when it's done, I think that script's going to be freaking fantastic. I love the concept. I love what's there so far. The first 20 pages kick your ass. It's just a matter of getting the rest of them there. But I'm looking forward to getting that one made. And then I have to get back to work on another film with Perry and Evan, who I made They Look Like People with. We've been in post for a long time on our third feature, and
Then
we just
I'm in.
Yeah, you are. Adam is a brusque, burly nurse that you see from the chest down, and like he's taking somebody's, just checking somebody's breathing, and Perry
Uncaring bureaucrats is my wheelhouse.
Uncaring bureaucratic nurse, and Perry was like, I love how just unsympathetic you were to him. You really just gave no fucks about him while you tested his breathing. And I was like, oh, I know what it feels like to be discarded. Yeah, but so gotta get that one finished. And then tons of books, lots of audiobooks. Those are constant. Thanks to the pandemic, recording in there.
Cool.
My little 3.5 foot by 2.5 foot.
That's nifty.
Yeah. That's it. And then just enjoying being a dad.
Oh, congratulations. All right, sure.
Yeah, Celia just turned 1.
She did. It's true.
You all did a great job. Excellent job on
Thank you.
this film.
Thank you.
It's been one of the
Thank you
most
so much.
popular films at the festival. And I say you got to come back. You got to come back.
We'll do our
Would love
best,
that.
You are
I
the
mean,
best. Yeah.
this was an amazing experience. I would almost say incredible in the truly not credible definition of the word. Everything has it's just like a series of Christmases, a battery of Christmases, if you will. And I know I said it before, and I don't speak for anyone else, but like, you never know. I mean, we had no idea. I knew I believed in the story, and I knew I believed in my collaborators, and I was hoping that they believed in me. I think to varying degrees on that one. But everything that's happened since then has been such a surprise, and we don't take it for granted. So now, I was telling McLeod at one point, like, I'm a little terrified of doing a movie, because we had 5 years, and like so much of what really works in this movie, we did really good work in the principal photography. Like from minute 34 on, it's all what we shot, and there's a bunch of stuff in the first 33 that we shot, but like we noticed in cutting that like our first act just wasn't there. And we wouldn't be sitting here now if our producers had not allowed us just all the time in the world. And I remember like texting McLeod, like, I'm a little terrified of not having it on the next one. But we'll have like money and support and resources, and that should be fun. So yeah, you know, we'll see if we can pull the rabbit out of the hat again. I'm sorry if we don't.
Guys, it's been lovely. It's been lovely speaking with you guys. We do have to wrap it up because we have an ideal host coming up in 14 minutes, which is the next Q&A. And we have to wrap it up so that we can prep them for their Q&As about to start in 15 minutes. So
I liked it. I just watched that the other night. It's so good. They also like scrapped it together and like, oh man, it's such a nice community. And thank you guys for like including us in this and, you know, inviting us to be a part of your festival. You know, movies of this scale really live or die by film festivals and word of mouth. And it's just been such a really overwhelmingly pleasant experience to work with you all. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been wonderful working with you guys as well. Loved your film. Brilliant. Best of luck. May Lady Luck smile on you for the rest of the year. Each of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.